Today's show, we're going to be talking about AccessFest. And people are wondering, well, what is AccessFest? It is a inclusive uh, organization that is a festival in Toronto, Ontario, and it's about accessibility. And we're going to be diving into that with my next guest, which I'm really excited to announce coming up shortly. So stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host, and today we're going to be talking about AccessFest. There's a accessibility AccessFest is all-inclusive in Toronto, Ontario, and to lead that off with the conversation would be my next guest is Maayan Ziv. Thanks for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good. It's great to be here. Hi, Brent.
Oh, fabulous! Thanks for coming on and sharing the festival. It's basically quite the festival in Toronto, Ontario about accessibility, all inclusive. Yeah. So tell me, first of all, how did you get involved with this?
So, Access Fest is kind of like a 10-year dream in the making. I started my company, AccessNow, just over 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was really just focused on sharing information about the accessibility of places. So, I'm a share user. I've always kind of asked questions about how accessible spaces are going to be before I show up. And often I'm showing up and they're not that accessible. And so 10 years ago, we started on a mission to share information on a mobile app called AccessNow. We've been able to map the accessibility status of places all around the world. We've shared information about entrances and washrooms and all kinds of access. And throughout that journey, I've had so many opportunities to be on stages and at festivals and at conferences and trade shows. And often the conversation about accessibility is a short-lived one.
Mm-hmm.
It's for, one special session or, maybe it's a fireside chat. But I've always craved a space to just really celebrate and focus on accessibility, really in all of its glory. So Access Fest really is that space. It's a space to celebrate all forms of accessibility and also a space to invite people who are allies, people with disabilities, and also many who don't have disabilities to show up and really claim that space with us. So it's not tucked away in a conference. It's not in a boardroom setting. It's out in the public domain and everyone is invited and welcome to attend.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of it's to do with lived experience. I mean, what people go through or what they see and hear in the community, and how it impacts their lives and their well-being and how to change things going forward. And having someone like you exposing out what you're seeing and how to change things like for accessibility wise. And I mean, having access to just the basic standards of what it may be. Is it a business or housing or what it might be, and shining a light on the problem and how it make it more accessible for people in the community and just your surrounding area.
Well, talking about lived experience, Brent, I'm glad you kind of went there because whenever we have a new guest on, such as yourself, Maayan, we always talk about lived experience and stories, personal stories. And, I always talk about kind of, the Spider-Man or the Black Widow origin story. Mm-hmm. And as I was doing my research on you, three things that I found out about you is that you're Jewish is number one, that you're a real geek about photography, which is cool. Like I'm a total geek about photography too. And my son is Jewish as well, so that's kind of the two things that perk me up is you're Jewish and my son is Jewish, and then your love photography. And the third thing is that you have a master's in digital media. So I just wanted to see if any of those three things, if you wanted to dive into those things, of how those three things maybe help shape your origin story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'll lead with photography because it very much feels part of my origin story. Before building AccessNow, I really thought that I was just going to work as a photographer forever. I found photography in high school, actually. I was on a trip and with my classmates, and we went to New York. And at the time, we were going to see all the shows and the plays, and it was really focused on kind of sightseeing and theater. And when I got there, my wheelchair had been broken by the airline, and I didn't have a way to get around. So tying a few things together here. And so I just started taking pictures. I had like a little point and shoot camera. People were still using those at the time. Actually, apparently they're back in fashion now. But anyway, I was taking pictures and I really enjoyed it. And I wasn't taking pictures of like standard things. I was taking pictures of like the city streets and kind of just gritty New York City. And so that kind of led me down this path of taking photos everywhere I went. And then, into university, I'd worked in some portraiture. I took pictures of my teachers' kids for their portfolios. I started some photojournalism projects. And by the time I graduated university, I started building a portfolio and started working as a photographer. And what I loved most about that experience was how I really had an opportunity to challenge norms. Like I was really drawn to fashion and documentary and portraiture photography. And, I really had not seen any photographers using wheelchairs at the time. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start carving out some space for representation here. And that kind of, I think, was my first real experience with advocacy and kind of socializing conversations about disability inclusion. And, that eventually led me to realize that I really loved that equally as much as taking the photos themselves. And before you know it, that kind of led to AccessNow. So definitely an origin story in taking photos. And I'll say I'm very much a visual person, and I still enjoy kind of the storytelling aspects of building AccessNow and now building AccessFest. It's a big part of it.
Yeah, you had mentioned about airports. What are you finding at airports? I'm a big person on travel, like about accessibility wise and making sure that all the ducks are in the row, shall we say. What do you find at airports about accessibility wise for anyone in wheelchairs or any accessibility device getting around?
Yeah, I'd say travel is challenging. I mean, travel can be hard for anyone. It's a stressful environment. There are a lot of different moving parts, and when it comes to air travel for people with disabilities, it just really has not been a very inclusive experience. Still a lot of barriers. Everything from how to actually speak respectfully to someone with a disability and assume that we have agency. Very concept, but sometimes it's missed within an airport. Down to mobility devices and the way that mobility devices are handled and how they're transported. There's been a real
sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to cut you off there because again, getting back to the kind of the origin story thing, there's the party game that's called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Have you ever heard of that 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you find the link of the movies that he's been in?
Sure.
And I just wanted to name drop Stephanie Cadieux, Stephanie Cadieux was an MLA here in BC, in British Columbia. She was an MLA here, and now she's now the chief accessibility officer for the federal government. And you're kind of 6 degrees of separation with her. Is that for you? Let's see. For you, it was you had your wheelchair damaged in September of 2022. Mm-hmm. And for Stephanie Cadieux, she had her wheelchair damaged in October of 2023. So both of you had your wheelchair damaged by Air Canada about a year apart. So that's one linkage that you kind of share, your 6 degrees of separation, I guess. And I wanted to bring it back to the AccessNow or AccessFest, because you're going to have Stephanie Cadieux as one of the speakers, right? Let's jump off about that.
Yeah.
Well, those are great linkages for sure. Yes, we both did have an experience that really helped, I would say, create awareness about the lack of accessibility that happens in air travel for people with disabilities. It's been something that over the years since my incident, we've connected on and both have been public about the importance of creating better access. We've traveled to different conferences, been in different spaces, and definitely something that we'll be bringing to the stage at AccessFest as part of our conversation. Mm-hmm. So really just a check-in on where things are now. What can we expect for the future for people with disabilities who want to travel or are struggling with barriers in air travel right now, and also just to hear her perspective on how things are shaping up right now. She also has a wealth of knowledge about where people are doing well in all parts of the world. What are we seeing that's excellent? What are some of the barriers that we should be addressing? So I'm really looking to having that conversation with her.
Well, have you heard the story? This is going back a bit too, and I believe it was Air Canada again, where there was a man with a disability. He was in a chair, and he was basically told to crawl to his seat because there was no attendants that were going to carry him. Like they said, well, you can't use your wheelchair. You have to crawl to your seat. And I just wanted to compare that. Like my first wife was in a wheelchair, and back when we did our trip to San Diego. So this was probably 2004, I think, when we did it. I believe it was 2004. So going back a bit, but just as a comparison contrast, and again, this was also Air Canada, but as comparison contrast, we had actually the attendants carry her. I think there was 2 of them, and maybe even 3 of them, actually carried her to her seat. And so then I heard about this man being told to crawl to your seat. I thought, well, wow, that's different than my experience 20 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like when I heard about your story years ago there, Maayan, and it really inspired me for when I launched this show, because it really gave me a lot more ambition to focus on more of accessibility wise, like what are the barriers. And I mean, there was a lot of barriers that I was focusing already, but when I heard your story, I saw it in the headlines, I was like, wow, I'm really, first thing came to my mind was, I'm really sorry that Air Canada let you down, right? That's the first thing that came to my mind was, like, they need to do better, much better. Mm-hmm. It should not have been a problem in the first place. And, like I do some travel when I can here and there, but I usually travel by train. Mm-hmm. And I found with trains, there is some accessibility barriers that are in place, but they do work with the client, with the customer, really inclusively to make sure that their trip is memorable and it's is as accessible as possible. There is a few barriers, especially with Via Rail. There's a few things that they need to kind of do a little bit better. But the U.S. Rail system is really good. But again, getting on and off a train, stepping onto a platform, they got bars that you hold on to, but they do help you down. But I would like to see more of a ramp, like so that person can do it themselves rather than having somebody else help them down, where they can be more independent and be able to do it themselves rather than getting that extra hand up. Airports, I've come across where, as you probably are well aware, I mean, say in a wheelchair, they have these floating like an escalator. It goes right along there. It's kind of neat. I find that kind of neat. I don't know why, but they have the carts where you can get into, and they'll take you from point A to point B. But if you have to walk a long way, and with luggage, that is a long walk. I think more that's an accessibility issue. They should have them nonstop. So picking people up, and do you need to get in the cart, and rather than just assuming that a person is, say, they may look like they're not sight impaired or have any mobility issues, they should offer that and say, well, right away, okay, you're a person with disability. Do you need to have any assistance? And have that actually there as a kind of a kiosk where you can go to and say, yeah, could you please help me? And so I can get on here and get from point A to point B without rushing. And yeah, what do you see that might be something that might be something good to look at or like have it implemented in at airports?
Yeah, I would say that across the board, we've, so I one of the hats that I play is also as chair of the Accessible Travel Journey Technical Committee for Accessibility Standards Canada. That's something that I've been doing now, and part of the work is also to really be able to identify all of the barriers that Canadians with disabilities experience in air travel, as well as other forms of transportation as well. Mm-hmm. I would say that what you're touching on is part of that matrix, right? It's about understanding what is a seamless travel journey look like, and how can we get to providing recommendations that actually address those barriers. The distance between terminals, the ability to kind of call or ask for help, or the ability to kind of find who to even identify with when you need support. So all of these types of things for sure, they come up, and also just being able to know in advance what you're going to face. I think a lot of the times people just don't really know what they're going to expect. And so that can add a whole other level of challenge, is just the lack of knowing, the lack of insight on kind of where and how you're going to navigate is another big thing that I see all the time, is people are not sure what to do, how to plan. And all of that then becomes a lot more challenging when you actually show up, because you're not really sure where to go or what to do.
Well, yeah, especially like when there's like transfer points where you only have so much time to get from, say, from one airline to another one. And if you got to travel halfway across the airport and nobody to contact, yeah, it's already stressful enough where you have to rush to get there. And so yeah, it's a good point that you brought up there.
Well, I wanted to say too, like once you get off the plane or out of the taxi or out of the train, what's your experience with things like accessible hotels and accessible bathrooms, accessible washrooms? Like that for me is become a huge issue now, because I used to be pretty mobile on crutches, forearm crutches, and then I had a couple of years ago I fell and broke my hip, and so now I'm quite I've got a disability on top of a disability basically now, and so an accessible washroom for me is like very high priority now for me. And so in your travels, what's your experience with, like, how many washrooms do you find on average are accessible and how many aren't?
Yeah, I would say it's a real mixed bag. I mean, I've been to spaces that, claim to be accessible, and then there are details about the configuration of where the door is to the washroom, or where the sink is in proximity to the bathtub, as an example. Like weird things that in the planning stage made sense, but in the usability of the actual experience, they don't. A very common one, for example, is in a roll-in shower. The actual faucet is on the opposite wall from where there might be an accessible seat.
Right.
So you might be able to access the shower, but you're not able to actually independently operate the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you first come in, it looks right. Yeah. But the usability of that experience really isn't. And I'd say that the big hotel chains are increasingly so aware that they need to provide better information up front, and better ability to actually confirm bookings that are accessible. I've seen the change growing. I'd say accessible tourism in general is a growing field. There's more and more awareness. But we're far from, just going anywhere you want, booking any space you want, and knowing you'll have access. No, I've had to be super creative in all kinds of different situations all over the world. So, what I will say is that using AccessNow app, that's part of the goal, is just to give people answers. So every time I go to a hotel, I'll add information about what I've seen. And many other users on the platform do as well. So if you're looking for answers to those types of questions, often the community is showing up.
Yeah, and sorry.
So it's AccessNow app. Where would anyone find that app? Like, where would a good platform?
So it's on the App Store, just AccessNow app, and then you could also just go to our website. It's accessnow.com.
On both Apple and Android. Okay, good.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, is like when I was younger, like a bathtub didn't scare me. In fact, I would kind of do this controlled fall in and out of a bathtub to, I would just kind of control my fall to get in and out. Yeah. And it used to be fine, but now I can't even, like, I look at a bathtub and say I can't do that. But I also wanted to circle back to Stephanie again. I'll share my story about Stephanie Cadieux. Is I used to do a blog on my website. I used to do a blog. So that was probably, I was in my early 40s then, and anyway, there was one time that I was out in my mobility scooter here in Surrey, and I was luckily I didn't have my son with me. He was ahead of me with my wife, and I was good following with him after, and. But anyway, I was crossing the street. It's a busy, like it's King George, and I was crossing, and the islands in the middle, I got halfway across and I got stuck. My wheel got stuck because it was kind of uneven, and I ended up so I hit the throttle a little bit, and I ended up flipping the scooter backwards, so I fell back into the traffic on the scooter, and luckily I got back in the scooter, but it was really scary.
Oh God.
And so anyway, I wrote about this on my blog, how I flipped my scooter over, and one of the people that wrote to me, she said I read your blog, and it was Stephanie Cadieux, and it's one of those things that you figure, like, nobody's reading this. I thought, well, I'm just writing this for me as, like, sort of as therapy, and you figure nobody's listening, nobody's reading it, and so I had Stephanie Cadieux write to me, and then I also had like the day after I wrote it, I had the city of Surrey, the engineering department, say that we're gonna go around and do the whole corridor King George Highway, and they were going to clean up all of the dead spots on the islands and all of the curb cuts and stuff. And they did. They went all down the corridor and fixed the whole thing. And so that was within 24 hours. I had Stephanie Cadieux write to me, and I had the Surrey department, engineering department, contact me within 24 hours. And here I was thinking, like, nobody's reading this, and I got an immediate. It was just kind of cool, right?
That's a new way of saying you flipped out.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the power of kind of creating awareness and sharing your story, and back to that point about lived experience. I mean, that's really what I think the type of platform that we're building with AccessFest is about. It's like we can each have our moments on our own, or we can create this really big moment to create awareness about where things are great, and the power of the disability community, and then also, you know, create awareness about how much more access we still deserve, spaces that we want to highlight. So I love that story, and I love the ability to tie it to direct and measurable action that resulted from you sharing your own perspective.
There's one area, last time I was in Toronto, I took the GO train, and accessibility wise, I did come across, which I'm not sure if you take the GO train or not, but I know that they have only certain platforms that the train will pull up to where you can get onto on the ramp, where you can get onto. Be great if all the doors you could get onto were be a flat platform where you can get onto there. Yeah. Have you come across that at all, or?
I don't use the GO train that much, but I know what you're talking about, where it's raised to.
Yeah.
Although we do have a partnership with Metrolinx.
Okay.
All of the stations are listed on the AccessNow app, so that you can actually know exactly what that platform experience is going to be like. We have photos of each one of them, and then also people provide information, and that information gets shared directly back with Metrolinx. So whenever people have kind of an issue, we're able to flag it and let their team know.
Yeah, it's really handy. I find it really accessible. Their system is really accessible overall. Quite a good experience. BC needs to kind of get with that a little bit better for sure.
Let's talk about the AccessFest though. Like what kinds of activities are you going to be running there? There's going to be comedians there, and there's going to be music there. Speakers.
Yeah. So I'd say, you know, in typical festival fashion, we've got a main stage that's highlighting different disabled performers and speakers all day long. So we've got Courtney Gilmore, who's an amazing comedian who I'm really excited to see. And then we've also got a series of performers. So we've got a set by DJ Cryptime. So we're going to kind of get into some rave spirit. We've got Matt Maxey, who will be showing up and doing a ASL performance and workshop, leading people through a series of songs, and not just kind of understanding the language of ASL and how we can understand music through it, but then also teaching us how to actually sign a song as well. That's cool. Really looking forward to that. And then a whole bunch more on the stage, Matt Mack, Martin Deschamps. But then we also have other things that are happening outside of main stage. So we have a space called Unfiltered, and within that space, we have kind of deeper dive panel discussions, focusing on things like accessible design. The next generation of disability advocacy will be from youth with disabilities. We've got a panel on media representation, as well as a series of different kind of activations that are happening throughout the festival kind of space. So a lot planned, some accessibility tours for folks that want to tour the neighborhood and kind of understand accessibility in a more hands-on way. But I'm really excited about it. We really kind of filled this day from the first kind of moment where we're opening with accessible yoga and some therapy dogs, all the way into our after party in the evening.
I like fur therapy.
Exciting. That's really, really exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, only thing I remember from ASL, we were taught that way back in elementary school, way back when in grade 8. But anyone who's watching the show today, I mean, of course, some podcasts, you're not going to see what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is I'll describe is I put my hand up, and I put my other hand over top as a T. So here's the tree top, and then as the wind will blow, it blows away. So yes, as the wind blows the tree top, you see. So we learned that, and we had to go up and down each aisle. We had to learn what each, like with music, and we actually had to kind of go along with it, and we had to kind of take our part in learning different things of different parts of the song until we all got together and we practiced over and over and over until we got sunk into our minds. Oh man. And it was so cool. Like I said, I don't know. I can't do that. Like you can do that. Like we were going to practice at it, and everyone's going to not know the whole song. But as time went on, we learned a little bit here and there. But as age went on, I kind of forgot some of that, but I should kind of maybe practice a little bit more on that, because that would really be helpful too, I think. Have an interpreter.
Yeah, very much like any language, right? If you don't, you kind of lose it. So
it's kind of neat,
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing is I actually really appreciate about the YouTube platform is that, we've said this lots, is that after 24 hours roughly, you have the automatic closed captioning, which is a huge thing. Like I don't have to do anything. You just finish the video and post it, and within 24 hours the closed captioning is done automatically by the YouTube elves, which is really cool, right?
Yeah.
The less
for that too.
Yeah, the less you have to do as a creator, as a YouTube creator, it makes it a lot easier for yeah.
Accessibility right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You definitely look. I wish I could be a fly on the wall there, Maayan, and actually be right there and watch the festival. But maybe there might be another year that I can actually go and do that.
Yeah,
maybe you can come to Vancouver and do it.
I'll have to do a break.
We're planning to be here for many years to come, and if you kind of look back closer to May 31st, the actual festival day, you'll see that there are ways to kind of tune in virtually.
Wow.
But not for everything, but for some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That's looking forward to that for sure. I'll watch it virtually anyway.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments, two from Peter Cunnington, and he says, I wish they had a festival here in Victoria, where you are, Brent. Yeah. And so I say Victoria and Vancouver should be on the list.
Next.
Yeah, and then Peter also says that he doesn't understand why people just can't bring their whole wheelchair onto the plane. Yeah, and we should say the date, because we have Toronto Dan in chat too. He wants to confirm the date, so it's May 31st.
May
right?
31st, it's Saturday.
And what's the location?
So the location is David Pecaut Square. It's downtown.
Yeah.
Here in Toronto on King Street West.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I love the red trains in downtown Toronto too. Those are great.
Yeah,
I love those.
Brent's jealous of your red trains.
I almost got lost. It took me down. It took me all the way down. Was it down toward? Was it the airport? Was it or? Anyway, it went all the way down, and then it kept looping around. What was it? Oh no, sorry, the exhibition fairground. That's what it was. Went down and then back up again, and I think, okay, I want to get off and transfer another one. And finally, the operator came up. Where are you going? You look lost. I want to get back downtown. I want to go to Union Square. That's where eventually I want to go. Okay, you're gonna have to transfer onto somewhere else and go back on another train. Oh no. She was, I'm gonna be not in service eventually, but it was nice. It was a good experience. I love Toronto. I just find it so easy to get around. People are so friendly, they're helpful, and showing as a tourist, when I'm there, where to go, how to get here and there, and so it's neat. Yeah, and looking forward to, say, the festival that you're going to have on. It's going to be so cool.
Vancouver sometimes has the reputation of being the no fun city. I don't know. Like we just kind of had this reputation over the years of that Vancouver's this no fun city now. I don't really know why. But we have Toronto Dan in chat again. He's saying, is there any opportunity for people to volunteer at the festival?
Actually, yeah, we have many different opportunities for folks interested. You can just go to the website accessfest.ca.
Okay.
And you'll be able to kind of loop right in. Yeah.
And there's going to be lots of different food there too.
Yeah, we have a food area, kind of featuring a few different Toronto companies, a few different organizations that focus on employing people with disabilities as part of the actual organizations as well. So really, again, trying to add representation to everything that we do. Yeah.
Whole wide variety of things going on there. I guess you're probably expecting a huge crowd. I mean, I guess a lot of locals will start coming in there and checking out some of the street venues that are around, and then they kind of attract right over to the festival because they're going to hear all the live performances going on and say, "Hey, what's going on? This is great."
Absolutely.
The word of mouth will get around really fast. So if you're in the Toronto area, everyone, definitely check out the festival. It's going to be great.
Yeah, everyone is welcome, and it's totally free. So you don't need to register or sign up or anything. You just need to know the date, and you show up, anytime throughout the day. We'll be there.
I like free. Free is good.
Yeah.
Free is
good.
Well,
again, we really wanted to make sure that there were no barriers for anyone to be able to participate, to show up, and to feel included. And so reducing and removing the cost to do so was a big priority for us as well.
All inclusive. Yeah.
That sounds like kind of the opposite of the Canada Disability Benefit, Brent. No barriers. No barriers for entry.
Definitely not inclusive. But yeah, getting to Peter's comment in chat, that would be something, Peter, that be something to look at. Maybe we eventually try to get Maayan out here to organize something that. Yeah.
Because
you're not wearing enough hats already. You can do multiple.
We'll get through year one. I'm really excited to start planning for year two, and we'll see where things take us. Maybe they'll
branch out, and they have kind of like other areas that can maybe blossom with that, maybe as things take off on it.
But honestly though, that would be a really awesome idea, is to kind of bring it on the road and have one or two in every like major city across Canada. Like, can you imagine how kind of unifying that would be to have one in every city around the same time?
I like that idea.
I mean, that would, because I mean, if you think about it, I mean,
kind of network.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm gonna date myself, and I know you and I are about the same age, Brent, but for people that were around when Terry Fox was around, he died. It was 1980 or 81, I think it was, and I was like 11 or 12 at the time, and so I remember, but somebody like that was so unifying to the country, right? And I don't think we have enough unification when we talk about disability advocacy. There's not a lot of unification or agreeing on a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of good advocates. Don't get me wrong, but it seems to me that we don't all always agree on everything, and it would be nice to have these kind of unifying opportunities where everybody's kind of pulling the rope the same way and enjoying a nice festival like in all the different cities. I think that would be like a great thing. I mean, I know I know it would be a big thing to bite off, but I would be great, I think. Yeah.
I'm bored.
Yeah. So like I said, Maayan, that's next year.
Yeah. Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure, nothing. But that's next year. You can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil's hint, 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 hint.
Yeah. Yeah. Just upscale it. Yeah.
It'll be fun, rain or shine. It goes on, and like we're having a big rally at our BC legislature, and that on the 29th of May. We're expecting a huge show out, so it'll be great. And we're gonna have a live DJ there, and chill music and relax and just mingle and food, and yeah, it's gonna be great.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of like bringing people together, right? For talk about is disability rates, about ending legislative poverty for disabled British Columbians, and also, I mean, we're going to talk briefly about disabled Canadians across, but it's more focused on BC. We're going to have about approximately 3-minute speeches each, so I'll have to cram it all in and myself and see the reason why, because people put their income back into the economy that they live in, and they can blossom out. Or if they want to go across the country, they put that money back into wherever they go across the country. Removing barriers across each province, that's a big thing for me. I want to see them all lifted. So when you're PWD in whatever province, you should now have access to that benefit. I'll call it a benefit on each province. You should automatically have it in whatever province that you go to. You don't have to reapply. It's like the Canada Disability Benefit. You're already provincial. You should automatically get the federal. No qualms. Should have to fill no paperwork out, because CRA already knows who's already on whatever province on benefits anyway. And if they have trouble figuring that out, well, PWD rates are actually a little bit higher than income assistance. So CRA will look at their calculations and go, oh, okay, so they're on PWD, they're income assistance. Okay, so we'll issue it out, but now we need to look at income assistance and how do we remove that barriers of making it so that people's incomes are matching with today's economy. What is stopping them from, maybe they're disabled and they're on income assistance and they're waiting to get through all the red tape of all the bureaucracy of getting onto their benefits. And I think, is it employment wise? I mean, that's what's stopping the ones on income assistance of being successful of whatever they can and cannot do, or people with disabilities, same thing. And removing, like working with the individual, working with their situation, saying, what is it that we can do to help you with the tools to help you be gainfully more successful, or maybe a home-based business, or volunteering into the communities that you want to be in. What tools can we help you with that? Maybe you need some other, I don't know, what I guess other help maybe along the way, if that makes any sense, where basically just removing all barriers. I mean, just all inclusive, just to help people. I think unified across the country. I mean, we're all citizens and kind of helping each other in whatever to achieve their best goals that they can to have the most dignified life that there is. And I mean, we have such a beautiful country. I think it's all more political, and it's just posturing back and forth.
And talking about things on a Canada-wide level.
Yeah.
And not to get too political here, Maayan, but I just wanted to get your take on what's your opinion on the fact that Canada no longer has a federal disability minister.
I was just thinking that you must
be
reading.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that one?
Well, I mean, you might guess what my opinion on that one is. I'd say, I've been engaged with the various ministers that have held that position since 2016. And it's a really challenging message to receive from the disability community.
Yes.
I think this government is yet to learn what it means to honor the disability community. And it's one more reason, to be honest, that I think what we're doing at AccessFest really matters right now. We need to be visible, and we need to be loud, and we need to be heard. Because if we don't have a minister in the federal cabinet that's going to be able to vouch on behalf of the community, then it's going to take even more effort from advocacy groups and community leaders, and even just like your neighbor, to be able to kind of raise the awareness about the commitment necessary to including accessibility and disability inclusion across every issue that the Canadian government touches. So not happy about it, but it just signals to me, and I think to many others like yourselves as well, like we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I first heard about the appointments for the ministers, I was following it very, very closely with the fine tooth comb. And when I heard that there was no disability minister for inclusion, my jaw dropped, Maayan. I was like, are you kidding me? Maybe they made a mistake. And I thought, in the back of my mind was, no, they made no mistake. They just don't want to deal with, basically people with disabilities. Their issues meaning accessibility, anything to do with accessibility, inclusion, holding them accountable. They need to do better. They still have opportunity of appointing a minister in charge of their predecessors, right? Minister Quantrill was in there. Kira was in there, and now nobody. Now they got what, Petty, who may have maybe a bullet point somewhere embedded inside of her mandate letter, somewhere embedded down there somewhere, but not a direct a minister who's going to be a direct contact, where you got practitioners who need to maybe contact her, disability advocacy organizations, self-advocates, parents, grandparents, citizens within the country may want to ask the minister questions. Is it about transit? I mean, you name it, anything to do with accessibility, no minister involved. What could go wrong? Government, federal government. I mean, we need to do better as government, right? I mean, that's why we elect you in. We appoint the ministers. Well, we didn't appoint that, you did, but we need to have somebody in charge and having that portfolio, so we have a direct contact in getting things right. I know they can do it. I know they get the ambition to really get it done. I say get it done right the first time. We don't want to be the afterthought. I guess for me, it was like a slap in the face, a gut punch when I heard that was no minister.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, like it was the backlash that I'm hearing in my community in Victoria. People are really upset. I mean, very upset.
Well, you said you had dealings with Carla Qualtero yourself. I'm of the opinion that when she was minister, I think there was more of a confidence there that the CDB, or the Canada Disability Benefit, was going to get across the finish line in the proper way. And then when she left, it was like, oh crap, what's going to happen next? And what's your take on the job that Carla Qualtero did versus everything that happened after she was kind of kicked out of that portfolio?
Well, I would just say that I think the biggest and most important thing that I would recommend to this government is the importance of representation. And that unless you have people with lived experience of disability making decisions and representing the community of people with disabilities, you are not doing your job properly. Mm-hmm. And so it's one thing to include people who can vouch for us and be allies. And yes, that's important. And we need people at all levels of government who don't have disabilities that can still understand the importance of access and disability inclusion. But it's a whole other thing to include people with disabilities in decision-making positions.
Absolutely.
So that's what I would say. Is that I had an amazing time, both with Qualtero and with Minister Kira, and both were committed to disability inclusion. And they both had very different experiences, very different lived experiences. And so not having even the opportunity currently to kind of have to reach out to a minister who's responsible for that now is let's see what happens.
MIA, missing in action. Yeah, definitely. We'll see how the dominoes will fall on that one. We say kick one door and the other door goes down. And what could go wrong when not having a minister there? So I guess I think things will change. I think if the heat gets put on to them, I'm hoping so. I anticipate that enough pressure will be put on them to appoint a minister that will represent the community across Canada. Nobody should.
But I would also say that from the community level, like if there are people with disabilities that are, disinvested or interested in politics, consider running, be part of the process so that we can increase that representation. It starts from folks in their own communities, engaging local government, engaging, community members, creating that voice so that, you can build yourself to a point where you could represent people at a federal level. So we need more disabled people in government. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I think for me too, and I don't know what you're feeling about this is, Maayan, but when you kind of gauge the activity on different social networks like Twitter and that, again, there seems to be kind of a very not a unified voice sometimes, because some people will say, well, you're not advocating for this, or you should be advocating for this way, and or why aren't you advocating for this? And some people will say, well, you should be advocating for, like there's people that are like at odds with one another because, well, you should be advocating for this. No, you should be advocating for this. No, you should be advocating for this.
Kind of a tug of war.
And it's like, we're all doing our little thing, and rather than uplifting all those little individual efforts, like, because it's like everybody's doing their little effort and they're all important, but rather than acknowledging that they're all important, it's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be, you know what I mean? I see a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I don't know how you think about that, Maayan, but I see a lot of that.
Definitely. And I think we also are within the disability space, or I'll say the disability population, we are probably one of the most diverse populations you can find. Disability touches every single other kind of identifying group. And so, finding our commonalities where we're, banding together and focused on a very specific agenda or a specific message. People have different lived experiences. People acquire disabilities at different points in their life. Their exposure, their support systems, everyone has a different perspective. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that we can all agree on is that we do deserve human rights and accessibility the same way that anyone else does. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, for sure, when you see someone out there working to create awareness or to remove a barrier, finding a way to support that effort, even if, you might have taken a different approach, or maybe even engaging that person and talking to them about your difference in perspective, creating a positive or a constructive conversation is much more valuable time spent than just tearing people down. And I would say that to any internet troll about anything, if you disagree, that's totally okay. Yeah. But having the space for respect and a conversation about your perspective or what you would want to contribute or what you might do different. And if there's something that's out there that you're like, people need to focus on it, go for it, please. Yeah. Because this community needs every bit of support and energy we can get to raise awareness of all kinds of things. And, even for me, I would just kind of close and say, like, it's not beyond me that I've decided now to focus efforts on a festival. In terms of priorities, maybe people would question, why is this worth putting energy towards? And the reason that AccessFest exists is really to create a platform for every message and every community member to raise awareness about the things that they care about. Yeah. So we have people showing up to raise awareness about built environment, about housing, about media representation, about air travel. It's a platform for all of these conversations. And my ultimate goal is that we can create a very wide network of folks that are passionate enough to show up and raise their voice.
Well, you know what? We've reached the end of the show, and that was a great mic drop moment right there. So, yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better than that, as to for our ending comments, and is bringing awareness. The key word is bringing awareness to the inequalities. One thing that I would love to quickly touch on before we end the show is what is your take about the CRPD? It was implemented in 2010, non-existent going forward right now. It's the UN CRPD.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to open up a whole can of worms.
Yeah,
that seems like a whole other podcast.
So maybe for the next one, we'll have that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that will be one for kind of I'll help you off to the next one.
Sounds good.
That's not like you to launch into a whole other podcast, Brent.
Yeah, that's where I kind of connected onto another one where it gives an opportunity for you to come back on.
There you go.
For sure.
But I want to thank you so much, Maayan, for coming on and sharing your perspective on accessibility wise and talking about the big festival that's going to be happening. Definitely anyone who in Toronto, anyone who's in the area, please check it. Definitely check it out and be there and share your perspectives. I always say that anyone who has a disability are going to acquire more disabilities in life. If you don't have a disability, you may get more than one disability, or you will get a disability and they could be invisible. And just treat people with dignity and respect because you just never know what life will throw curves at you because it can happen to anybody at any time. You're born with a disability. It's no fault of your own. People just have to accept a person for who they are. And don't be judgmental because it can happen to you too. And then you say, oh, well, why am I being judged? Why is this happening to me? Let's work together. Let's work together as a community across the country, unified in one way or another, and come together with all great ideas, perspectives, and how to make it the society more inclusive for all. Mm-hmm. That would be my ending comments for today's show. First of all, I want to thank Maayan, my guest, for coming on today. Great pleasure having you on. I hope to have you on again, and we'll talk about the UN CRPD where I left off on another show as a gesture to invite you to come to.
Or maybe we can geek out about photography again.
Yeah, we could talk about that too. Yes, that's a great topic also. Maybe we can combine both. Yeah. And I want to thank our guests in the chat and basically our listeners on the podcast for tuning in today. Please subscribe, like, and share the content. Buy us a coffee. In the comments section, you'll see the $sign there if you love the content that you're hearing or viewing today. And have a great day, and stay tuned to our next.
So just before we leave, though, Brent,
sure.
Maayan, remind us again the date and where it is.
Yes.
It's AccessFest on May 31st, happening in downtown Toronto at Pecaut Square, and we'd love to see anyone who's interested to come out and join us.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Free.
Oh. It's free.
Yes. Great. Thanks,
everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Maayan.